Hello everyone, it's Arali and welcome to the channel. So, this week, ArenaNet released a new trailer for End of Dragons and it's showcasing the Leviathan, which is the giant fish creature that you see in the trailer. Now, this is very exciting because we have known about the Leviathan existing in the world of Tyria for a very long time. We've actually seen this since before the release of the game. There was many instances where we've heard about them and we see the skeletons throughout the whole game, but we've never actually encountered them. And I saw that a lot of people were very excited about this, and I myself, someone that is a lore enthusiast, I was very excited to see that as well. And I wanted to make a video about the Leviathans, telling the history of the Leviathans, what we know about them, the locations of where the skeletons are, talk a little bit about them, and touch on a couple of things that I've talked about before. So let's get right into it. So the history of the Leviathans. The first time we actually get to see one of the Leviathans is during the Manifesto trailer, which was one of the first trailers that ArenaNet released, showcasing what they're planning on doing with the game, what makes Guild Wars 2 so special, and all these things. But without any voiceover or any annotations or anything like that, they, at the very end of the trailer, actually showed a Leviathan swimming by what looks to be a Savari character. And not much was known about those creatures. We had no idea really what it was, and a lot of people actually theorized that it might have been the underwater dragon or a minion of it, or even Drakkar. At some point people thought that maybe Drakkar was going to be in the core game. Now, the only other time that we hear about Leviathans before the release of Guild Wars 2 is in the book Sea of Sorrows. Now, I won't spoil the story, but pretty much there is a giant Leviathan in the book that's wreaking havoc in the Sea of Sorrows, and it's called the Maw. Now, that's pretty much all I'm going to say here because I do not want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read the books, but I personally have not read the book, but I've heard really good things about it. I'm not a huge book reader, so I kind of skipped out on that, but for anyone that's interested in something like that, I heard the third book was really good. So next leads me to what we actually see in game, which is the skeletons. There's actually a ton of them around. If you actually look for them, if you actually look around, you can see them everywhere. There's, of course, in the Crystal Desert, because the Crystal Desert used to be an ocean, and there is specifically that I can think of in the top of my head in the Desert Highlands. When you go out in the flat area, right as you enter the map, there's actually some giant skeletons, and those are Leviathan skeletons, and they're huge. And there's a bunch of them in Kryta, specifically, of course, the coastal areas you can find them, and of course Ore, because Ore being pulled from the ocean actually has a bunch of skeletons there too, but we've never seen a live one. What's interesting about that though is that there actually were unused models in the game from before the game even released that were the Leviathans. There was a brown one and a blue one. I think that those particular models are actually going to be smaller than what we will see in End of Dragons. When you actually look at the models, they look smaller than what we see in the trailer. Of course, the trailer might be a little deceiving because we only get 2 seconds of it, so I'm not sure if I may be wrong on there, but it looks like it's maybe a newer model because those older models look a little bit outdated, and ArenaNet is probably going to make sure that those models are really nice. So maybe they used them as a basis and just kind of updated them or something, and I will have pictures of those for you guys to look at. Now, I want to kind of get into stuff that I've talked about a little bit. So I've had a couple of theories about the deep sea dragon and its minions, and particularly in the minion video I talked about how the Leviathans could possibly be a champion or some kind of minion for the deep sea dragon, and I think that this is something that is still very plausible. I think this is something that could still happen. Facing these creatures underwater kind of shows that, hey, we have maybe minions of the deep sea dragon that we're fighting, and we haven't seen anything of the deep sea dragon. They haven't really shown us anything. The deep sea dragon has never popped up anywhere in any conversations, in any videos, in anything, so they're keeping that completely under wraps. And I don't know if maybe this is a little preview of hey, this is the claw of the deep sea dragon or something like that. It's a possibility. There is at some point, and this was, I believe, during development, one of the developers said that the Leviathans were not dragon minions. Now, obviously, this is over 10 years ago now, probably like 12 years ago. So a lot of things might have changed, and since they never actually used those models, they might have decided otherwise and said, hey, you know what? We don't have any minions of the deep sea dragon yet, and this is the last one we're fighting, and we used to have this model in game, and we have shown the skeletons everywhere. So why not go ahead and use that in the story as one of the lieutenants or one of the champions or whatever of the deep sea dragon? So I really think that there's still some merit to that theory specifically, and I will leave a link to that video too if you guys want to see that video down below. Now, with all of that said, I will say that I'm extremely excited to not only see the Leviathans be in the game, but also that we do get some underwater combat. I was very afraid with what we have seen so far, there wasn't a lot of underwater stuff, and specifically facing the deep sea dragon, I always questioned how we would face the deep sea dragon if we're not going into the water. They really have kind of been avoiding it, and for the last few years, ArenaNet has kind of stepped away from it. They've first of all given us the skimmer to glide across the water, then they gave us the griffin and the sky scale to just fly above the water, or fly everywhere, so to say. But specifically, right now we're talking about water, so we can avoid water. Then they gave us the swim speed infusions, which make us even faster on water, and then they gave us the ability for the skimmer to be underwater as well. Now, all of that showcased that ArenaNet was trying to step away from doing anything underwater, or specifically anything combat. All of those things give you the ability to avoid underwater combat, but it seems like they're taking a step back. With having the siege turtle be able to like move underwater probably means we can also fire the cannons underwater, and then showcasing the Leviathan as this seemingly big boss of the new expansion coming out kind of shows that ArenaNet is like, hey, you know what? No, there is underwater stuff, and we still want you guys to do underwater stuff. I think that Guild Wars 2 as an MMO has probably one of the best underwater combats, not just in the MMO genre, but I think for video game standards in general. A lot of video games, and I think this is like a trope for everyone, is that underwater levels in video games usually suck, and it's because usually the movement is clunky and the abilities are weird and the combat is strange, whatever it is, and they're usually like convoluted levels because you're adding like another axis to the whole idea of playing a game, and that usually throws it for like a loop. So I think that ArenaNet really has something, like they have a lot of great stuff going for them. Their underwater combat is actually pretty decent. Yes, it has its and it needs to be worked on, it needs to be balanced, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be changed probably, but I think overall it is really good, so I'm happy to see that. And I will point out another video that I recently had about the improvements and stuff like that, and in that video I talked about how I wanted to see underwater trade lines specifically for every class actually, and templates that activate only when you go underwater. So if you guys want to see that as well, we'll have the link down below. But I still think that there's merit to do these updates, to do these features, because I would love to see more underwater stuff. I made a video last year talking about all the things underwater, and guys, there's so much lore with the Largos and the Crate and the Quaggan, and so many things that are super interesting under the water that we haven't explored yet, and I would really love to do that, because I think, like I said, Arena really has the groundwork to have really good underwater combat. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about the Leviathans. I really enjoy the Leviathans, and I'm really excited to see at least one of them, a big one, come in some kind of battle, boss battle. Hopefully it's a meta, like an underwater meta. I would really like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and are you guys excited for it? I am, definitely, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.